MW, it's Melissa
and Stephanie Carcache,
two sisters and the founders of Millennial Women and your host of the Mini Talks. We are so excited to introduce to you today our next MW, Emma Faye Rudkin. Emma was just 3 years old when she lost her hearing. When her doctor recommended to her parents that they put her in a deaf school, her parents made a very bold decision and left her in mainstream school, which led Emma to be courageous and resourceful, learning how to read lips, feel sound vibrations, and really helped her find her own way to fit into a world that she no longer felt like she belonged in.
Emma's personal story proves that with faith and courage, you can tackle any challenge. After winning Miss San Antonio, Texas, she founded Aid the Silent, a nonprofit organization that helps bring resources to deaf children and teens, such as hearing aids as well as speech classes. Everyone, please help me welcome the inspiring Emma Faye Rudkin. So Emma, thank you so much for joining us today.
I really believe in what you guys are doing for women, so thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. For our womanhood that might not have the privilege of knowing who you are, can you explain to us a little bit about who is Emma Faye?
It's been a changing, description, but growing up, who I was someone very insecure, had no idea what my purpose was, very shy. I could hardly speak in front of people without feeling horribly embarrassed that my voice was different from deafness. And so now I've become a completely different person from who I used to be. And people that knew me beforehand and who know me afterwards, they say that it was an automatic shift in who I was. And so now I would say that I'm really courageous, that I've become an advocate for people that don't have a voice. So a lot of what I do is I'm standing up for children and teenagers with hearing loss, and I would say now I've become completely secure in who I am, my voice. And it's funny because the very thing I was most insecure about growing up was my voice, and now that's what I do for full time, as I am a speaker and I travel on different circuits. So it's just like, oh wow, very different from who I used to be, very, very different.
I'm going to start from the very beginning. You know, you were just 3 years old when the doctors told your parents that their child was deaf. What was it like for you growing up? Like, what was your childhood like?
Yeah, so early on, my parents, they put me into a mainstream school. So I grew up in a small town. So I really didn't have equal access to the same education as everybody else. So I always had to fight for my own education just because there are no resources in a small town for someone who's deaf. And so I always had, my parents were the ones who taught me to advocate. And early on, I just remember thinking, I am different, but I wasn't quite sure why. But as I got older, those differences really became magnified, and I started to see, oh, my peers, they go to class and they learn the concept and go home, and maybe takes them 30 minutes to do homework. For me, though, I would miss school completely, miss the concepts, miss the lesson because I couldn't hear. I'd struggle to understand. And then I would have to take home the textbooks and reteach myself the day's lessons. So for what would take everybody else 30 minutes, it would take me like 3 hours to do homework. So just realizing early on it was harder for me to feel included. It took a lot of effort just to understand. And so sometimes it was easier just to keep being isolated. So I was constantly feeling like, oh, I don't belong, I'm not included. I really believe that no one could ever understand me and that I could never be known growing up.
That's so hard, like being a child and just like trying to figure, you're already going through so much, like as a kid and as a teen, right, that just to also have this is so, it's just so incredible what you've been able to do.
Thank you.
Something that stands out to me so much is how you say that you were originally so afraid of speaking, and now you're a speaker. You're an advocate, especially for your community. What is one of the challenges, or what was the challenge that made you say, okay, this is it. Now I'm going to become a speaker. I'm going to be courageous and advocate for my community?
I think there's a couple of pivotal moments that changed the way I went from being someone that was feeling always like a victim. Like I always was hurt and I was always feeling left out, and all of a sudden I just had that shift of thinking, wow, I'm waiting for people to step into my world, to change my world, but I've not done that for anybody else. And so that was a shift in my heart. It was realizing I'm waiting for someone to invite me, but I can become the inviter for those who normally would not be included and not seen. So that was kind of a shift. But I remember, so for a long time, and I still struggle with depression, and I actually have clinical depression. A lot of it is from being a deaf child and feeling so relationally disconnected. But so what would happen was, probably from 3rd grade until 8th grade, I would cry every day. But I became really good at pretending I was okay because I felt like I had to hide all of those emotions that I was struggling. And so the moment I got in the car and my mom would pick me up, I would just be crying like nonstop. And this went on for several years. And she would always come home, sit on my bed with me, and she would say, Emma, unfortunately you learn that life is not fair when you're 8 years old. And I'm so sorry that you're so young to know this. And she would say, you're allowed to feel sorry for yourself. You're allowed to hurt and grieve and have a pity party. And then she would say, but tomorrow you have a choice. And she said, tomorrow you have a choice to pick yourself up and to keep loving people. And so I think after years of saying that message to me, it finally clicked. Oh, I can be the one that regardless if people don't see me, I will be the one that says, I see you, you have value. So, and all of a sudden, when I decided I'm going to be the one that speaks life and value into other people, then all of a sudden my life had incredible value and purpose. And I just started to see that I was really my own limitation on anything. Because I told myself, oh no, I can't because I can't hear or because I can't speak clearly. And then all of a sudden I was like, I am made with purpose. And I'd never believed that before. And all of a sudden I was about 14 years old. And I was just fed up with feeling isolated and depressed from people. So I had a significant event when I was 14 years old. And I went to a camp. So I'm extremely passionate about summer camp for deaf kids because it was so instrumental in my life. But the camp experience, I started to really experience Jesus and my experience with God. And all of a sudden I started reading, oh, you're made with wonderful purpose, and that you have what was used for harm actually can be for good. And so my whole life I was thinking, I'm so harmed, I'm so hurt. And then that shift was, oh, but this would be the very thing that helps other people. Because the weakest part in my life with the world and everybody else would look in and see is that I am missing something. I'm missing a sense. I don't belong. I'm never going to be what they think is normal. Well, all of a sudden I was like, oh, this very thing will be used to help save thousands of people and not just me,
Right. It's interesting because you speak so good about your mom and how your mom was really that sort of voice and that special person in your life to kind of get back on your feet and really let you know that, Emma, you're here for a reason. You're on this earth for a purpose and a reason, and finding your faith and how crucial that is. And we're definitely going to talk to you about that a little later on because we think that is so crucial to anybody's real survival in life is your faith. But, speaking on so many things that you have mentioned about your voice and the impact that you want to make, you decided to do something really bold and I think kind of scary. You decided to compete for Miss San Antonio, Texas, and you won in 2017. I mean, thinking of now everything you're saying about your journey, you're like, no, now I'm going to go do that. What was that decision like for you? Why did you make such a bold decision like that?
So the first time I was a freshman. So actually, it was 2015.
2015. Okay.
Yes, so it was 2 years. It was 2017, but I did it twice. So it was so cool. So I was the first one who was deaf ever, 2015. Then 2017, I became the first Miss San Antonio to win twice since 1923. So it broke two big barriers for people. So that was an incredible thing, but really it came from my little girl dream in my heart. And my first big dream was that I wanted to be the second Miss America ever who is deaf. And so growing up, my big role model, and still my big role model, is her name's Heather Whitestone. And she was Miss America in 1995, and she's a ballet dancer. And so growing up, she was who I looked to see what it could be like to be a deaf woman and to have a talent. And so early on, like around that big life shift, when I was 14, I started learning to play piano and guitar, and I started singing. And everybody was just like, what is happening? This deaf girl who hardly ever spoke is now singing and playing on talent shows and going and playing in coffee shops. So it was a pretty radical shift, but so it kind of all led up to when I was 18. I was thinking, hey, my big dream of competing for Miss America isn't possible. I really doubted myself, and I convinced myself, hey, I'm just going to settle for what I know I can do right now. So I was just working for another organization, and one day I received an email from Miss Texas saying that Miss San Antonio, the official preliminary for Miss America, was coming up. And I'm thinking, that is so not me. Like, that is not for me. This is an accident. I never wear makeup. I never walked in heels. I never showered. Like, none of that.
Seriously. Wait, you never showered? What
I was showering. Oh, I was so not this pageant type, but I thought a pageant type was. And so I get this email, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm so not going. And I ask around because I'm like, wait, how did they get my private information, you know? And so asking around to different people that I thought could have done that, and I finally get to my mom, my mother. And I was like, why am I getting an email from a pageant? Like, what's happening? And she was like, well, I signed you up. And I was like, what? What have you done? And she's like, Emma, you were kind of settling for your second dream and not the big dream. And she's like, you need to go for the big dream. And so I went to that meeting just to help her, like, just to kind of appease my mom. So I go there, and literally my whole soul was like, you're going to do this. And it was so insane. So I, showed up in Birkenstocks, hardly any makeup. I had Princess Leia buns at one point. It was just, that was who I am. So all the time I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to win this. And I had 2 months. And so it was so crazy, but I knew God was calling me to say yes, because he was going to give me that platform. And then since I was a young girl, my heart was to start an organization. And so the dream was it was going to be called Aid the Silent. And we were going to help kids get hearing aids, sign language classes, summer camp, all of these big dreams. And so I knew that I just felt so confident I was going to win that platform of Miss San Antonio to start the organization. So in a whirlwind of 2 months, got ready for the pageant. I started my 501c3 paperwork and was able to start up a website, the basic mission. And when I won that night, it changed everything. I mean, I woke up and all of a sudden everybody in the city knew who I was. And so it was just a very surreal night. I remember those first 2 months after being Miss San Antonio, the organization just was skyrocketing. I mean, it was unreal. I can't believe I'm on this side of that experience, and looking back, and I'm like, wow, that was all so for a reason and just so beautiful.
As an artist myself, I believe that music is so powerful. Emma, how has music impacted your life?
So it was the very thing that people told me I could never do. So it was one of those things I always came back to thinking, oh, I can't make the talent show. I couldn't try out for these plays. And knowing that most of the music I can't hear. So I can only hear and understand about middle C of the piano. So that octave around there. And the rest of it, I can just feel the thumping of the key. And I can feel the vibration associated with that note. So every note, and if I'm singing a certain pitch, or I'm singing, I'm trying to get that resonating feel inside my head. And so I know it feels a certain way through muscle memory and just feeling the vibration. So I started playing the piano, and the vibrations I feel in my hands up into my arms. And then with the guitar, it's really strong in my chest. And singing, I think I had years of speech. So I had about 10 years of speech therapy. So I would know what certain pitches sound like and certain vibrations in my mouth feels like. And so I'm able to sing because I know it's supposed to feel and my mouth's supposed to lift a certain way to get that sound.
That's so fascinating, Emma. You are such an inspiration.
You just have to work with what you got, so.
Where can we listen to your music? Do you have any music out right now?
There is a song. It's called Love Hears. And we had written it for a documentary, and the song is actually about a hearing and a deaf couple, and how do they navigate the world together, and how do they step into each other's worlds, whether there's a language barrier. So it's a really cool song, and it really is just my story written out in like a poem that I had written. I'd written a journal entry, and this documentary asked us to write it, and so I ended up taking this journal entry of like my deepest parts and wounds of my story, and we wrote a song. So, but it was so sweet. We made this video kind of portraying some of the deeper meaning in it. So, for example, there's a line that says, "Lonely, I can hear my heartbeat. There's no one else inside these walls." And so it sounds really poetic, but actually what it's talking about is I've had such progressive hearing loss the past couple of years. And so every time I go to get my hearing tested, it's incredible anxiety and fear, because I never know if I'm going to be told that I've lost more hearing, or that I'm losing the only hearing I have left, which is about 20%, 15 to 20% of my hearing is left. 80% is gone. So I've been losing my lower tone sounds, which is what I've had my whole life. So that made me a little bit insecure about music again and all of that. But that one line that says, "Lonely, I can hear my heartbeat." So what happens is when you get your hearing tested, it's so silent in the audio booth. So an audio booth for testing is soundproof. And so without hearing aids, I get so nervous that I can't hear anything. I know there's sounds playing for me to like affirm that I'm hearing them, but I can't. And so my heart starts pounding so hard and fast that all I can hear is my own heartbeat. And so that's what that line in that song saying, "Lonely, I can hear my heartbeat. There's no one else inside these walls." And so it's talking about being alone in an audio booth. And then the song says, "But you stepped in to share the silence, and I'm not alone." And so in the video, what you see is my friend that sings with me. He comes into the sound booth with me. So it's such a deeper meaning. It talks about being deaf and what it means to live in a hearing world that doesn't always get it.
Wow. I know, I actually checked out the video last night. And I heard, yes, and I heard the song, and I was blown away by it. First of all, you sound amazing, okay? So you sing really beautiful. That's number one. But number two, I do love the poetry and the lyrics because it is very powerful and super moving. I actually would love to check out the documentary. You have this quote in your IG story, and I want to get it right, so I'm going to read it off the paper. But you say diversity is being invited to the party and inclusion is being asked to dance. That is so profound what you
And
say.
that's so profound. Yeah.
Oh my God. It is such
It rocked me.
Yes, and it's so true, right? So it's almost like, what does a quote like that, mean to you?
For me, it has become, I guess, the heartbeat of my story the past, I guess, year or so, because most of my advocacy battles, sometimes it's just so frustrating because it would be things like, hey, we're going to have captioning finally at the theater, which takes a lot of advocacy and a lot of hard conversations leading up to that point. But finally, when you get to that point, hey, we're going to have captioning, then it becomes, oh, but it's only this showing, and oh, it's only this time frame. Or yes, we hired you as a deaf person, but we don't actually know how to include you yet, And so that kind of what's interesting is I'm getting so far, like at least we're invited, but we're there, but we're not quite fully in the mix, if that makes sense. So we're there because, oh wow, it's so exciting to hire somebody that is diverse now. Thankfully, we are in an age where millennials are extremely aware of different people groups and the minority and being diverse. That's great. We've made great strides. But now it's like, okay, the next push is, although we're in the room, what does it mean to actually partake and be included in what is happening in that experience? So our generation, we are making so much movement for people groups, and we're getting so close, but that next push, so the first push is just being in the room, just being included, but now like inclusion actually is that you're getting to partake in it, you have equal access, you're included. So I'm like, oh, I'm so thankful I'm invited, thank you, but now how am I included now that I'm in the room? Because for me, if I'm invited to something, great, thank you for being diverse. But now it's like, okay, what resources are you going to have for me? How are you going to help me understand? Because, it looks great on paper to be diverse right now, but to actually step forward and take that step, reaching the one person that doesn't know English, or reaching the deaf person that needs sign language or needs captioning, that's not always resourceful in the world standards. Like, it's not financially always the wisest. It takes effort, but what people don't realize is when you take that effort, you actually are gaining incredible people on your team or in that event. And so you're actually gaining something instead of always like, oh no, we can't budget for this, It's like, actually you could, but it's not your priority. Like, you would rather have so many other technological things, or you better have so many other like performance-based programmatic things, but you're not willing to do that, the one thing that helps other people understand. So I'm so passionate about teaching corporations, events, churches, what it means to actually not only invite them to the party, but to dance with them.
Emma, we love the work that you're doing. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start Aid the Silent?
The dream first came from, so my father is actually an attorney, and he had represented some children around the time I was in high school. And one day he came home with the story that was a major interruption of being comfortable for me. Because at this point I was like, oh, I've got being deaf down, I'm becoming confident, I'm playing music. And all of a sudden he comes home with a story that it literally forced me to really understand, hey, my life is not my own life anymore. And so he came home and he had a child that he was helping represent in the foster care system, and the child was deaf. And so he comes home and he's just talking about him not being able to get resources and so many things that he had learned about deaf children being stuck in the foster care system. And he had attended some seminars about this. And so he told me that, and I was just thinking, wow, just because I was born on this side of town with the parents that I have, with the resources that I was given and the people that were in my life looks so different than what this child was experiencing. And so I remember thinking, I have to do something. And I was probably about 16. And that is when I really started dreaming. I mean, a lot of my journals from high school, it's me coming up with the name of the organization, what we were going to do. And so that was really this major moment, and thinking, if nobody else steps up to the plate, like, who else? So that's what's it's so critical. If we see an issue, a social justice issue, we seem to want to wait for somebody else to step in. And then I knew that was my calling. I couldn't ignore it. And so Aid the Silent really grew out of that one moment. And the more that I became immersed in deaf culture, and I started signing, and I started really learning sign language and the people group here, the more I started to see, this is so much, there's so many issues for deaf people. There is, I believe it's 70 million deaf people are worldwide. And the typical reading comprehension when they graduate from a program here in the U.S. is that they're thinking like they're 8 or 9 years old. Their comprehension is the same as a third grader. So then it repeats the cycle. So then they become unable to go to college. Then they become severely unemployed or underemployed. About 90% of the deaf are under or unemployed. And then they just live their whole life so dependent upon governmental funding and dependent upon so many other people. And what started breaking my heart when I started to see this was realizing, wow, how many deaf people inside of them had the giftings and the talent that was just untapped inside of them. So if that had whether we were going to be a poet or a doctor or a lawyer or the next speaker or play music, but nobody ever tapped into their potential, not willing to go deep with them to see who they can be and who they're becoming. And so that's where I started to realize I want to be that person that helps untap the potential that's inside of them.
That's amazing. What are some of the resources that Aid the Silent offers to the community?
Aid the Silent offers kind of 4 different branches of how we're able to help deaf people. So the first branch is deaf resources. So this is when we are giving hearing aids. And hearing aids can cost anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000, and insurance does not cover it, especially families and severe.
So the insurance doesn't cover it.
Wow.
Until recently, but it's very few. Only 21 states have insurance, but very few companies actually offer it. For a long time, it's been deemed as a cosmetic need.
Cosmetic need?
Yes, and it's the only access to sound. Yeah, so that's recent. That's like this year. It has been in the House. This past year has been a lot of bills to help with insurance, but still, families like Medicaid doesn't cover it. So it's a big issue. So we just kind of thought, hey, we're waiting for all these programs to help give hearing aids when that child's gonna miss that perfect window to get early intervention, early care, early resources. So we just decided we just need to bypass the system a little bit. And so we're able to get hearing aids at wholesale cost. So instead of just giving one hearing aid, we're able to give the price of 2. so for 2. And so we've really learned how to come in for early intervention. So we give hearing aids, classroom equipment. So a lot of times children need what's called an FM, and that brings the sound closer into their hearing aids and cuts out all the background noise of the classroom, so they just hear their teacher's voice. And then we help with sign language classes. So we'll help families come learn together, because a lot of times a deaf child will go and learn American Sign Language in the school system, and then their parents will speak Spanish a lot of times here in San Antonio. And so we have 3 different barriers, because they're trying to communicate ASL, which is thinking conceptual English, but not fully English. Then you're trying to get the service provider that speaks English, and then the parent that speaks Spanish. So you're just like, wow, where do we go with this? But we figured out ways to help kind of communicate, and also we help provide the sign language classes so they can all be on the same page with language and understanding each other. That really helps heals families. It helps siblings be able to sign with their brother or sister. So that's a resource. We also provide speech therapy. So for people who choose to go more listening in the spoken language for a deaf person, which is what I am, I learned to lip read, use hearing aids, and speak through speech therapy. And so if a family decides to go that route, we're helping with speech, just more intensive speech. And then the other branch is deaf ministry. So this is where we can provide, I guess what's called benevolent funds. Is that how you say it? I can't say that word. Benevolent.
Benevolent?
Yeah, it's a fancy word. I always struggle to say words. I don't know. So we can so for example, if a child comes and they need school supplies, they need backpacks, and they need things to start the school year, then we can say, hey, we have this separate ministry pocket, and so we're able to meet just basic needs that way, because there's certain cases. And then through that system, we're able to run a summer camp. So we provide scholarships for kids, and we set up all the accommodations they need. So it's typically twice the cost, because you're providing interpreters and captioning for that child. And so that's a double the cost, and leaders that know sign language all to go together to camp. And then my favorite, so we have deaf education, helping teachers learn, and providing resources on school field trips as well. So they can go to the ballet, they can go to a museum and have resources. And then the biggest one that's become a really huge part of our DNA is actually just deaf awareness. So that's where we throw some big events.
Aid the Silent is making such a huge impact. What's next?
So we've started tapping into some global pockets for deaf children and teenagers. So what happened was how it became so widely known. So we service children all over the U.S., but because we're officed here in San Antonio, we are able to really focus on the families here in San Antonio, but we actually provide resources anywhere in the United States. So we work with the audiologist or the camp ministries, camp companies directly. So we're providing the service through those companies. But what happened was, when I first started it, I came up with this social media campaign, and I literally had no funding when I started. I was false advertising for sure, but I said that I'm able to give hearing aids and speech and sign language, and literally there was no money for me saying that. Yes. And so I just believed in it so much that I'm providing this. Literally no way I could. But I had one donor come forward and give me $5,000 within the first month. and that's all I had to provide a resource that cost, $6,000 to $10,000. And so I was very scary to say that. But this donor comes and gives me $5,000, and I'm thinking, how do I leverage this little bit I've been given, and how do I spread this and use it well? And so with some of my team, and basically, so when I became Miss San Antonio, it became kind of a national news story because of being deaf and kind of my heart for advocacy and Aid the Silent. So I started getting all of these emails and letters and social media messages from deaf teenagers and preteens, and they were all saying how they were really struggling with being embarrassed about their hearing aids or their speech, or being unable to connect with people and being made fun of and being bullied. So I started hearing all of these stories, and for me, I was thinking, where do teenagers put everything out there? Put everything out in the open. And for me, realizing, it's social media. They put everything about their lives on social. So I was thinking, what if we put this into like a positive movement? And so I came up with this, and I called #ShowYourAids. So they would post a picture with the hearing aids. So I created this campaign, and I said that a donor will give $5 per post up to $5,000, knowing. So I was able to use that to try to create a movement and get it out there in the community. So the first week, nobody did it. I was the only ShowYourAids, and I'm thinking, wow, I failed, like completely failed, and I was thinking, I'm so young, I have no idea what I was doing. I was 18, and so terrified, and I remember just feeling so disappointed. And in a week time, a woman in Dallas from a deaf community posted it, and it started spreading all across Texas. I mean, hundreds of ShowYourAids and implants.
What?
So, yes, and then it starts getting crazier. So then the movement starts going all over the United States. So people were showing their hearing aids and implants in Michigan, Florida, and they were showing them in Massachusetts and Kansas, all over. And then it started getting so crazy. So me and my mother at this point were on 2 separate computers, and all of a sudden we started screaming at each other from the other rooms because it was all these different languages started scrolling on. So what happened was it went to South America, and so we started seeing ShowYourAids in Spanish and from South America, and then that was Colombia first, and then it started spreading all across Europe. So it was in Germany, the UK, Netherlands, and then it was in Israel, Australia. So all over the world, this movement started. And so it kind of gave us like a global presence and a national presence. So we were able to fund kids all over the United States. And then we started working with a school in the Philippines. And so we were able to provide the library for the kindergarten students. So fun. So we have this global presence, but now I actually want to capitalize on that, because we've been so home based. And so I think that's the big, probably next step is I'm a big dreamer now because I see it happens, for sure. And I would say I would love to, so we throw a big event called the Good Vibrations Music and Arts Festival. That's the first historical deaf event. So I would say 3 big goals are to have that music fest travel around the country and become a traveling festival in different cities. Then the other big goal would be to set up a warehouse in San Antonio. We really need office space. So we are quickly running out of space. We quickly need audiology rooms, sign language classrooms, event spaces, conference rooms, just having our own space right now would be amazing. And then the third thing would be really mobilizing our global presence and being able to go fit hearing aids in third world countries, and to be able to go to the Philippines and work with these deaf schools and deaf churches and different organizations. And so I'm really looking into that Moldova and some different countries. Puerto Rico has a strong deaf presence. So right now I'm working with a global church plant organization. So kind of doing with that, we'll go in very missional minded, but help provide some practical needs as well.
I know you're going to do this. I'm so excited. I mean, this is, we often talk, it's like you said, millennials, we're so passionate about social change. And to see someone like you, a millennial, and you really are creating social change by your actions, because we can talk about it. We're very good about talking about it, but very few of us, because of self-doubt, because of insecurities, because of this self-limiting beliefs, we don't take action. And what I love the most about you is that you've been able to surpass any limitation or any self-doubt or insecurity, not because you didn't feel it. You probably have felt all these things, but you were able to say no and take action. And for that, I thank you.
That's good. Thank you. Yeah, I heard something recently. A friend said this. They said, we have to start moving from being a picket sign movement to a backdoor movement. So the more that we actually show up for the people in these experiences, in these hard things, like we're willing to walk alongside them, like what's not in the front. It's like in the front is like the public movement, the loud movement, which is great, and there's a time for that. I have for sure been on that side of like going and standing at Capitol steps, like all of that. But more so, like change for me is I can't keep being angry about it and not physically go do it. So it's important, like, hey, we're at the back door. So for me, it's like, oh, I could go protest all day long about the injustice or the death. But it came a time I was like, what am I actually going to do? Like, I'm a part of the change. I can make the difference. I can educate people. I can teach people. And I can provide the needs that I'm angry about. Because for me, if I try to change policy all the time, I mean, it's still a system. It's still not relational. I'm still not one-on-one with people. I still can't change a ton if it's on paper. But if I'm actually the one doing what I hope that will become some type of policy change, then I'm bypassing that system. And I'm not waiting for somebody else. I'm doing it.
Exactly.
100%.
Emma, I thank you, really. And I know Mel thanks you too. You really are being the change. You really are.
But thank you.
Emma, what is one piece of advice that you would give to a millennial woman today who is trying to find her voice and her purpose?
I would say start with where you need to be healed. Yes, because if you still have and your piece that is broken can be used in any way. So I think it's kind of that realization of what do I think is broken in my story or in my past or maybe even in your background or upbringing, and how can that be an actual launching pad or a platform? Because one of my favorite sayings is God uses deepest pain as launch pad as your greatest calling. And so deepest pain and struggles and I think where we feel that most opposition or friction, it actually is it can be used and utilized for good. And so I think thinking we don't have to be completely fixed up to be used for something great. So I think that's important for young women to realize, hey, you don't have to be this perfect platform figure. You don't have to have the podcast or the perfect Instagram page, or you don't have to be in front of the right people or have the right fashion. You just have to show up, And so I think it's important, like, okay, so show up in the places that you want to make the difference, because that's what it takes. That's the difference.
I love that. Emma, you are just, I can't even tell you how powerful and inspiring you are. Thank you so much for your time today. It was an honor to have you as a guest on the Mini Talks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you want to learn more about Emma and Aid the Silent, you can follow them on Instagram at Emma Faye Rudkin and at Aid the Silent.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Mini Talks. We air every Thursday on YouTube, IGTV, Facebook, as well as wearemillennialwomen.com. While you're there, don't forget to leave us a comment.
Until next time, MW, always love Melissa
and Stephanie Carcache.